What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Sports Spectrum. I'm your host, Matt Forte, here with my guy, Jay Nice, Jason Romano on the ones and twos, and I got George Hill on the podcast with us. It's a pleasure to have you. I've watched your career, watched you play as well, but first time being able to talk and ask questions about the intersection of sports and faith. So welcome to the Sports Spectrum podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. Such an honor. Big fans of both of you guys. I'm happy to be here. This is kind of like one of my first. I really don't never do podcast type things, but it's an honor to be on a faith-based, sport-based podcast. And if we're going to talk about something, this is the things I like to talk about, not all the extra riffraff that's going on in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first let's talk sports, man. Let's talk ball. Um, it has been said that I am one of the only football players, the slim few that could hoop. You know what I mean? Like like some. I think it's probably a lot more basketball players that could translate over to football, just height wise and just athletic ability, jumping ability. But when it comes to football to basketball, it's kind of funny. A lot of guys, they just they're not as they don't have the finesse. It's a lot of
For
more
sure.
brute strength. But actually, Josh McCown said that he was like, "Man, you the only one of the only running backs. You, Edrin James, and I think he named one other guy who can
That's good.
play
Yeah.
basketball." So when it came to that, but I kind of stopped playing basketball in high school. I realized I'm gonna be like 6 foot in a little bit, 6'1". Not
Mhm.
gonna be this super tall guy, and I love football anyway. When did basketball for you become like it kind of revealed to you like, man, I think I could do this. I think I might be able to go pro.
It was interesting. I was football and soccer growing up my whole life. Really loved football, played wide receiver, played safety. Um, and then soccer, I was goalie most of my career. And Indianapolis is cold. That Midwest can kind of get to you. And it kind of shifted me in eighth grade where I was like, I'm tired of this cold weather and I'm going to try basketball. And I actually tried it. I always played it at the park I grew up in and things like that, but really never took it serious until pretty much my freshman year when I actually took it serious, where I like dedicated myself to it. But other than that, I played it my whole entire life, played it every single day, just wasn't in love with the sport as much. And it happened around that time, and I kind of got beat really bad in like a one-on-one game, and that kind of lit a fire under me because I hate losing. And the guy I played, he was boasting, talking to everybody, and I was like, I was football, soccer, but he made me mad, like I was a real true basketball player. He played his whole time, and that was his number one sport. So I was like, I guarantee next time I play you, I'm going to beat you 21-0. And he was like, I worked out all summer. Next time I played him, 21-0. So it kind of do it. But when I got to college my freshman year, it was the lockout year for the NBA. And some of those guys from the Pacers would come over to our open gym and play, like Ron Artest and Jamal Crawford would come in town and play a little bit. And it wasn't until the season started to get kicked back off where, they were inviting guys over to Indiana to play a little bit in open gym. And I got to go over there and play. And it was Fred Jones and guys like that. And I kind of held my own. And it was that day where the head scout of the Pacers seen who I was, and from that point, I was on his radar. He ended up getting fired by Indiana. San Antonio Spurs picked him up, and that's how the San Antonio Spurs found out who I was.
Yeah, speaking of which, you were drafted in 2008 by the Spurs in the first round, and we share that together. We are both 2008 draft picks, just different sports. So I think that's pretty cool. But kind of similarities, we both have come from smaller schools. I went to Tulane University in New Orleans, which isn't a big sports school, not known for
My
football or
my
big
coach is there
program.
right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And you came from a smaller school in Indiana, IUPUI, and coming from I guess from a smaller school, um, how was that process? I guess because for me, that I can go through my story and all that stuff, but it's just how did the Lord kind of I guess guide you in that journey in that time of playing at a school that's not necessarily known for a big program, but you were able to come out on top and say, look, you guys should look at me and actually take the stepping stones that the Lord has placed in place so that you can show and shine and see that they can see your talent.
I mean, definitely so. I had a lot of people in the country, a lot of colleges in the country. I led the state of Indiana in scoring almost 2 years in a row. And basketball in Indiana is basketball like football in Texas, right? And it's the holy grail of sports in Indiana. But um, I don't know, something was just pulling on me. My great grandfather was passing away and never got to see me play. I was a really homebody, hometown kid. Never really made it outside of the neighborhood I grew up in. So me trying to go to Florida or a Temple or a Texas just for me didn't fit the culture that I was in and how I was raised and just wanted to stay home with my family and friends. And Butler never offered me. Maybe if Butler offered me, I probably would have went to Butler. IU was another hour away, so I was like, I didn't want to go there. Um, Purdue didn't offer me as well, but everyone else in Indiana did. And I chose a thing my junior year in high school. I was like, I'm gonna shock the whole state and choose IUPUI. They were really with me my freshman year in high school. I didn't average not 1 point. I averaged 0.8 points a game my freshman year. And playing varsity, we had seniors that the ball sometimes didn't swing that freshman's way, and that's how it goes. But there was a coach there named Joseph Price who really believed in me. He came from another IPS school like I did, Manual High School at that time, and he always told me like he sees something in me, and I was like, this guy is crazy. Yeah, I don't know what he sees in me not averaging 1 point a game, and he always told me every year, like, man, if you just keep working, you can be special. You can be a special kid. You can come out of the city. And I didn't even believe in myself at that point, but he did. And, he ended up getting a job at IUPUI and he was like, hey, remember I told you who you was going to be? Who remember I told you who you was going to be? And I think that was the relationship I had. And I ended up choosing IUPUI where everybody thought that it was the stupidest choice in the world. But I think that God brings people in your life for a reason. And there was a reason that he brought Joseph Price in my life at that time and to see something that I didn't see in myself. Just a knucklehead kid from 34th Street. And he seen something way beyond me as a inner city kid, and the rest was history with us.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because my understanding and thought process when I was growing up was that, man, you go to the big school, then that's how you make it to the next level because you go to this big program, all the eyes are on you. But God has a funny way of changing that around.
Sure.
I had one scholarship offer, and it was to Tulane, and ended up being like the greatest thing that could ever happen because I got to follow in the footsteps of my dad and play there. He went 30 years before me and kind of create this legendary or legacy that I wasn't even thinking of in high school. I was like, man, I just want to go to the big schools. But um, I gotta ask you something that I ask all the basketball players is like, at what age and how was the feeling when you first dunked? Because I remember for me, it was like it wasn't until like, man, might have been end of it's probably my junior year is when I really actually dunked, not just like tip it in. And
Sure.
I was so hyped. I was like, you couldn't tell me nothing just because I dunked the ball one time. But how was that for you?
It was good. I think I got my first dunk in eighth grade, and it wasn't the one that you take the ball up there yourself and dunk, right? It was, how you throw the ball up in the air, it bounces right by the rim, and you put it in. It was that dunk, but you couldn't tell me anything because back then, our age group, smacking the glass was like you're getting dunked on. Especially if you could smack the glass with two hands. You like, oh, you really got posted on. But that was the first time I dunked, and it was kind of surreal because you always wanted to get up there and dunk and to grab the rim and see the ball go in there. But my first time with the ball coming from the ground just in my hand was my freshman year. And I was the only freshman at that time dunking besides our center, which was Jeff Atkinson. Uh, it was that surreal feeling as a freshman dunking and back then you're like the girls are hyped that you dunked in class. It it was the best thing ever when I first dunked.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling. It's like a rite of passage almost a sports player. I know Jason probably dunked in like sixth grade or something like that, but
No,
yeah.
I took a tennis ball, Matt. In 10th grade, I was 6'1" and 150 pounds and dunked a tennis ball. That's the best I could ever do. I had that white man's disease. I couldn't get up. It was
Oh
bad.
man, it's all right. White men can jump. I got a few of them in the NBA that could jump. But
That's right.
speaking of the NBA, man, you played with some legends. You played with LeBron. You played with Tim Duncan, Giannis. What was your kind of welcome to the NBA moment?
The welcome to the NBA moment for me would had to be the first. I mean, I was blessed. You know, I got drafted by San Antonio Spurs, which at that time and still this time is one of the best organizations that ever touched Planet of Sports, right? Coming in and you're being around a guy like Tim Duncan, who is first class, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. Uh, I had Michael Finley, Antonio McDyess, Bruce Bowen at the time, Jock Vine, Ime Udoka, Fabricio Alberto, Kurt Thomas. Those were like my vets. I was pretty much the only rookie. But I think my surreal moments, first game, I'm playing Kobe, and coach is telling me that's who I'm guarding as a rookie, and I'm like, what? So I remember my first time, guard him, and he looks at me and he looks down because I got my hands on my knees, just sitting there waiting, and he's like, they put you on me, and I didn't at that moment I didn't know what to say. I'm like, do I talk crazy back or do I just ignore him? Because this is the
Yes,
black
sir.
mama we're talking about, right? Like the last thing I want to do is make him mad.
Yeah.
But it was that moment where I was like, man, I'm really into it. I'm about to go out here my rookie year and check Kobe Bryant 94 feet. And but that wasn't it's like that wasn't the moment. My childhood, one of my childhood heroes, other than Jordan, I think every kid looked up to Jordan at that time, but mine was Iverson. It
Hmm.
was
Mm,
it was that moment when I stepped on that court with Iverson where I'm like, man, like he was holy grail to me. He was a kid that I could see myself, an inner city kid, had tattoos, and the way he dressed and his cornrows and the way he wore his clothes and he had the big long chain. That's kind of how I grew up. So to imitate that person, that was the guy who was like, man, he's untouchable. So to finally get on the court with him and to guard him and to see him actually in full flesh, that was my welcome to the moment in the NBA. It was no other than to see Allen Iverson face to face. I'm standing there with him, dripping sweat on him. He's dripping sweat on me. He's trying to post me up. It was that moment. It was the greatest time of my life.
Yeah, hey, not many people can say that, or tell those stories. Those are great things, and I'm gonna be telling my kids stories like that when welcome. I got an early welcome to the NFL. It was my rookie year in Indianapolis against Peyton Manning, and it
Oh
was the
yeah.
rematch of the Super Bowl from '06,
Yep.
and nobody was giving us a chance. So I really wanted to go out there and show well. And man, I had a 50-yard touchdown in like the first half,
Yeah, I
outran
remember.
the safety, Bob Sanders, and all that. And I think that made Bob mad because Bob was Defensive Player of the Year, I think,
Oh
a couple
yeah.
years ago. And Bob
He
yes.
would
was a
come
hitter
down and,
too.
and smack you. And man, I
Yeah.
caught this screen and I hit this linebacker and he slid down and I'm dragging him and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like these dudes can't hold me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
about to, break this tackle. And at the last minute, I see Bob coming. I tried to duck and he almost blew my shoulder off.
Hmm.
He hit me so hard. I had to go out of the game for like one or two plays, but I made it back in. That was like, hey, welcome to the NFL rookie. Live to fight another day. So
Wow.
But
yeah,
I
it was
guarantee he
crazy.
respected you after that.
Yeah, yeah, it was respect
Yeah,
after the game, which is
for
I
sure.
love that about football too, and the height of pro sports. Like you play hard against somebody, and even if you win or if they get the best of you, or maybe it's an even battle, you can shake hands at the end of the game, and be like, hey, you earned my respect. Hopefully I earned yours.
For sure.
So let's talk a little bit about Jesus. When did your faith journey kind of become evident to you that there's more to life uh, the money, cars, clothes, is the girls, you know, the kind of the what the world, all the distractions that the world shows at you and tries to get you off your mark. When did that become like real to you?
It's crazy. So like there was a church called Tabernacle Church that was kind of like the focal point of the city where I grew up in, and I would go there, and that's where I would play all my sports growing up as a kid because it was like that place got the kids off the street. And there was a guy named John Byers who would let me play for free, never charged me a dime to play in the league. Only thing he would ask me to do is I have to dust off all the trophies in the case and work the concession stand when I'm not playing, things like that to play. But it was a church league, and I didn't know God at that point. I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. I knew that he was real, but I was also coming from the inner city where like I wanted to always see facts. Like just don't tell me. Like you have to show me something. Show me that this person's real. You guys are telling me who this person is, but there's facts. So I was always hesitant because I never got to see facts and things like that. And it wasn't until like 3, 4 years ago where like my faith really like started to pick up, and um met a guy, Pastor Ed, here in San Antonio, and talking to like a Drew Holiday and Lauren Holiday and things like that, about who Christ was. And then we had a pastor in Milwaukee named Kenneth Locke, when I was in Milwaukee, really started to sit down with me and show me who faith and who Christ was and what it meant to walk with faith in Christ. And um, I think Kenneth Locke was the reason that I turned to Jesus, because he was a pastor, but he looked like me. He acted like me. He didn't see any difference in me. He had tattoos. He'd go up there and preach his sermon. He had Jordans on, a nice fit. It wasn't like you had to come to church with a tie or a suit and do this and get on your knees and do like he welcomed everybody. And I think if it wasn't for that man right there, like I don't think I would have found him as early, like in the last couple years, like I did. And it was crazy because I went to the football team and basketball. We never had anything like that. The PAO, if no one understands, you guys have something that was mind blowing to me. I've never seen it where all athletes can come together and worship and praise. And you have people that you hate on the field, but off the field,
Mhm.
I've seen everybody hug each other, embrace each other, and ask me how your family doing. And I'm looking like I really thought all these guys kind of hated each other from a competitive standpoint. And then you get there and you see like you see you, and then you see like a Baker Mayfield, and what people paint, the media paints these guys to be like, this guy is this. And then you get there, you're like, this guy is complete opposite of what I thought, because how the media portrays them to be. And these guys are like Christians and loving people and some of the nicest people I've ever been around. And it was eye opening for me that I needed to get my stuff together. I'm like, man, I need to get back on track. Like, look at these super athletes, but they're on their knees worshiping God. They're crying as grown men. And I was like, holy crap, like I'm not where I need to be. And just this past, we had our first, we came to you guys' football event to try to start a basketball event. And I was like,
Mhm.
man, if we can get anything like they have theirs, we win. Like, I think that's something that the NBA really truly needs. And this was our first year doing it. We did in Jackson Hole, Wyoming this past summer, and we only had like 12 players, right? But it's a start.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I actually gave my life to Christ at PAO this year in the pool, at Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Four Seasons Hotel. So it was awesome experience. I'm connected now, and I go to church now, and I know who he is. And eventually this year, once we can start doing it, I want to go to Jerusalem and see, the facts and see with my own eyes and things like that. But I don't know, I was sitting there during our event, and I could not stop crying, and I was trying to figure out like, bro, like I come from like men don't cry and men should do this and hold your emotions. And it was a point that, we had Francis Khan and we had Anthony Phillips preaching, and it was just what they were saying to me like hit home, and I couldn't hold all the emotions in. It was like stuff from the past was just coming up, and I couldn't hide my emotions. And everybody putting their arms around me like, dude, that's the Lord speaking in you. Like
Hmm.
that's the Lord telling you like this is where you should be and this is your calling. And it wasn't after that day, it was like something just dramatically changed for me. But the guy Kenneth Lott reintroduced me to who the Lord was, and I still was hesitant. But it was after this PAO event, I was like, nah, I'm in there. Like I'm fully
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And the PAO does that, for you. Any of the athletes that will be pro or that are pro, encourage you guys to definitely attend because even football, everything starts small. Football will start off as a Bible study, um, and it was three guys, and that is what PAO is now, with multiple different sports and baseball and football are over 150 plus couples now, and basketball will soon to be there. We're definitely working on that aspect. And same thing with me, man. I grew up in the church and everything, and just kind of had this facade that if I was in good places, if I went to church routinely, then I'm good. And then PAO was like a big catalyst to like, man, these dudes got it. It was encouraging at the same time as well as convicting, where I was like, I'm not on my stuff, but I aim to be. I could piggyback off the faith that some of these other guys have that were big time players, like millions of dollar contracts, but they're not too celebrity isms or so too much of a celebrity to kneel down and worship a holy God. And they have wives and families, and they have this something that you only get that when Jesus aligns your life, when you align your life in Jesus. And I had to really fully submit as well. Like 2014, I had been baptized before, went to church, Sunday school, all that stuff. And I said, no, I'm getting rebaptized and I'm rededicating my life to Christ. So, kudos to you and for doing that and then following along and walking that journey and that path. In that same vein, he was like, if we can get this started in the NBA, it'll be huge, which we're doing that. But what was and is the culture now that you see in the NBA? Is there a large faith culture, or is there kind of a revival going on, so to speak, that you have seen in college sports? What is the culture like in NBA right now?
I think it's more of like a revival, right? We get so our Bible study in the NBA is normally during our work time that we're working. So we'll have a chapel come in and he'll say, hey, with 60 on the clock, you can come down here and get some worship. Well, you have to think like 60 on the clock, I'm locking in. I have to go do my pre-weight, my pre-training, my pre-workout on the court. So I always miss chapel because my time always started with 45 on the clock. So if my time started at 45 on the clock, I have to have my weights, my tape, all that stuff, my treatment is all during that time before the 45. So a lot of players actually miss chapel because it's right during the thick of when we're trying to lock in to play this game. And um, we're trying to revamp that now, but I think a lot of people, I won't say that we were scared to talk about Christ, but it was something that wasn't normal, right, in the locker room. It wasn't like, hey, let's have this Bible study or hey, like you going to church. It was just something that no one ever kind of mentioned. We're trying to be these men macho, like we don't need anything. But I think now it's starting to turn. You're starting to see more guys trying to get Bible studies in the locker rooms with players, veterans, and young guys. And I think guys are starting to buy into the culture of trying to figure out who Christ is and walk with him. And it's a beautiful thing. You're starting to see now more guys, praying before the game together and trying to get these things going. So it wasn't there, but the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, it was like a big culture swing of it's okay to give God his glory before the game and after the game. And we're still with the media trying to figure out, stop taking out of
Mm-hmm.
when a player says, "Hey, I want to give God grace," and then you take that out of the whole interview. I think that that's not a bad thing. I think we need to the media need to be held more responsible for that too. When these guys are trying to give God his glory and his grace, you literally cut him off. That's sometimes that's draining for a guy who's trying to follow those footsteps. It's like, man, I'm trying to give God glory, but the media just takes it away. Then the guy just ends up stop doing it, right? Because he's like, I'm doing it for what? No one gets to hear it, no one gets to see it. The media takes it away, and I think that's good where we have platforms like this where we can show like, yes, I am a believer. I love Christ. I think he's the best thing that ever happened in my life. And we can talk about it and we can put it out and don't be ashamed to do it and not worry about you guys taking bits and pieces out of it to make you guys look better. So hopefully it continues to grow and hopefully we can get the media start to buy in. Like it's okay to give these guys their time to give God grace.
Yeah, yeah, amen to that. And um, yeah, I think it is definitely revival in that aspect of it's becoming uh more and more prevalent that they are keeping, those interviews. And even if they, do take it, I want to encourage those guys who have that platform to keep doing it because, the Lord works in all kind of different ways.
Mhm.
Okay, they may have been cutting it out of their segment on national TV, but what if one of the reporters is searching?
Yep,
And he keeps hearing you say it all the time, and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna read this Bible thing. I don't want to know what he's talking about.
for
It may
sure.
be that guy who's the interviewer or the reporter who gets saved. So he works in so many different ways, man. It's amazing that we just be obedient, stay consistent, and the fruit of his word never returns void, as the Bible says, man. So I encourage you guys to, as you said too, to be unashamed. Romans 1:16, be unashamed of the gospel. And I think the fruit of that we see, and sometimes we plant those seeds and we don't get to sit under the shade of those trees. But me and Jason talk a lot on this podcast about identity
Mm,
and how, like as you said, they put the time on the clock and you have a choice. And it's
Mhm.
kind of almost unfair. Like that with us, they don't kind of, it's not like a either go get some work and get better at what you have to do or choose Christ. Like they didn't
Mhm.
do that for us. They actually had like designated time. And I would imagine there'd probably be a lot less attendees if they did say choose this or that. And it almost makes you subconsciously say what's most important. Jesus can
Mhm.
wait.
For
This
sure.
is what I do, and I get paid to do this. So this is it becomes almost an identity aspect. So, um, when it came to you and making those choices and kind of realizing that, how hard was it battling the identity of I'm an NBA player or I'm a pro ball player versus this is what I do, but who I am is what God has called me to be.
I mean, it was hard because you're like you said, I feel like you sometimes have that option, like, hey, you want to go do this or you want to go do your job, and you want to do it. And I think if we had that where it was different times where guys are have to be conflicted of what they want to do, you would have more attendees to come to your chapel during that time. But I always felt like before I was really walking in faith, I always felt like, man, I'm doing godly things. I'm giving back to the community. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm always for people. I'm always lending the hand. So I was thinking like, okay, well, just because I didn't go here, I'm doing my daily quote unquote like things that I'm supposed to do to be following the Lord. But it was more to it. You know, I was doing all those things, but I wasn't following. I was wouldn't say fake walking. You know, walk with him, but it's not true. It's not real because it's
Mm-hmm.
not always about the things that you give, it's the things that I kind of take in at the same time. But I think with that side of it, you never knew how important it was until things are gone, and then you're left with no identity after your sport is gone. You know, after I
Yeah.
retired, it was like, what do I do with my time? I didn't have no identity because I was just a basketball player. I was
Mm.
always like, oh, I like to do camps. I like to give back. I like to go feed the homeless. I like to do these things, but I still had no identity. I was just George Hill, the 16-year NBA pro. I wasn't, man, like George Hill. That is a godly man, that he's walking in faith. I didn't have an identity. And I think basketball could have helped that if we actually had time to find time to go into those chapel things and learn who it was at an early stage in my career. I probably could have been a better faith walker, but um, that was the thing that I felt like you said, sometimes you're having to choose between giving God his time or going to do your job, which you're paid for. And a lot of people, even including myself, chose to go do my job. And
Yeah.
it sucks, but that's the reality of the world we live in, the sport we play. And they always say the money is the root of all evil, and we're choosing money and ungodly things over giving him his time. And what could it have been if I just give him that 15 minutes every day, every game?
Hmm.
And but also then having someone like, hey man, you should do this. Hey, come here and do this. It wasn't until I got to Milwaukee where Keith Kenneth Locke was like, no, if you're not gonna come to chapel, I'm gonna come to you. I'll come over your
Mm.
house. And he would come to my house and we would sit there and talk about Christ, and he would try to break things down, and I go to church, and after church we'd sit there for an hour talking. But it also started walking closer to God when I needed him the most, which was a bad thing. It was like when everything fails in your life, when you feel like you hit the rock bottom, now you want to lend a hand out and ask for help.
Mm.
And that was my thing. I hit a hard part of my life where, I just felt like everything was piled on top of me, with marriage, with career, with how I was living, how I was walking, talking. All those things were like pivotal for me. And that would kind of force me to go find the Lord. But
Mm.
before that, like you said, everything was going good. You had your money, you were doing good, you're like going to church. I thought I was cool. But it wasn't between like get hit in your face with a bat where it's like,
Yeah.
ooh, oh, I need help. And he's sitting there the whole time like, oh, now you need my help.
Hmm.
Now you need my help when everything's against you, when your back is against the wall, when you feel like everything's about to be ripped from you, you want my help now. And it wasn't that I was too late. He still forgave me and still accepted me with all my baggage. And I didn't know that at first.
Amen.
I
Amen.
didn't
Yeah.
understand it.
I heard a sermon once that it's always stuck with me, man. It was this guy, he was talking about the the enemy, Satan. And he was saying is everybody thinks that is just everything that happens that's bad. Oh, that's the enemy. That's the devil. And he's like, well, the devil's been around for way longer than we have. He studied humanity. He knows scripture as well. He'll twist scripture, all those things. And it's like, what if the devil was so, crafty, which he is, that he allows the comfortability of life to anesthetize your faith,
Mhm.
where, you feel like, oh, well, everything's good. Like I'm getting paid a lot, the kids are good, life is good, but you're not necessarily walking that straight path. It's almost like how David in the Bible was like, why do the wicked prosper?
Mhm.
And it could confuse you into thinking, I'm okay. I'm gonna just stay in this lane of comfortability until the Lord does have to send warning shots, and you're like, okay, all right, yeah. I've had to heed those warning shots in my life as well, and I'm glad that they were loud enough to where I was like, oh, all right, let me get back on track because this is not how I'm supposed to be living. I need to be. The Lord is calling me to a higher calling of living, and it allows you to align your life, and you'll see definitely the fruit of that when we do that. And I think that's where guys like yourself and the humility that you have, and myself and Jason and I, like everybody who has the ear or the capacity and the like your closeness to other athletes who this message is not getting to, that God has called us to make that message get to them, to say, look, you ain't got to go the path that I went, or make the mistakes that I have made, because I'm gonna share it with you. I'm gonna share how you can avoid those temptations. I'm gonna walk and tell you, look, you can avoid the allure and the temptation of money, cars, clothes, and jewelry, and women, and all these negative things, and we're going to show you the way that Jesus wants you to be called to a higher capacity of living. And
Mm,
that's what it's about. That's that's what this platform is about. That's what the career you had as well as I had is about. And we got to make it go, for the next
for sure.
generation of athletes.
For sure.
um yeah. But I'll step off my soapbox and let Jason. Oh, I got one more question. I got one more question. So my wife, I'm turning 40 in a few months, and well, I don't even know by the time this airs, but I'm turning 40 in December,
Yes.
and my wife got me a horse recently, and I used to ride horses growing up and everything. And I heard that, my researchers at Sports Spectrum did some research on you, and they said that you own some land and you've got all kind of animals there. So I was
Yes,
I was
sir.
curious, what do you have, and how do you take care of all the animals?
Well, I have a ranch here in the northern part of San Antonio, but it's 972 acres. Uh,
It's a
but
lot
we
of
had but we have I love animals. I love outdoor. I love hunting. I love fishing. And it's crazy because everyone's like, "You love hunting, but you have animals." I'm like, "Yeah, I have animals that I love on my ranch, but I also go out and hunt somewhere else." But I just love it. I have probably over 40 plus horses, male and female. I have African exotics as far as like sables, elands, kudus, wildebeest, zebras, kangaroos, ostrich, uh,
Wow.
whitetail, fallow, axis, like 10 different species of rams. We have red stag, we have elk, we have Arabian oryx, scimitar oryx, we have nilguides, we have audads, we have wild hogs, which we have a lot in Texas. Um, there- blacktail or black bucks, we have red lechways. Like we have a bunch of different animals, and we just let them
Wow.
just run wild. My kids. It was big for me because like I grew up in the inner city and was never introduced to the living of
Yeah.
having land or generational wealth, right? It was where I come from, it was all about having, like you said, the money, cars, the girls, the big rims, the trunk rattling down the street. That's what I was accustomed to growing up. It wasn't until I met a guy named Will Drash here in San Antonio. Him and his wife Gloria took me to their ranch and showed me what it is to live, right? A different type of living. And it was like, hey, have you ever shot guns before? And I'm like, yeah. It was like, oh, you have? I'm like, during New Year's in my neighborhood, we shoot pistols in the air, which
Yep.
now, as I learn about guns, is probably the most stupidest thing I can ever do because that bullet has to
Yeah.
come down eventually, right? Um, but they showed me how to break down rifles, pistols, like how to put them all back together, ride four-wheeler, something I never done. And I asked though, I was like, how did you get this? And he was like, man, it was passed down through generations, and me and the guy owns it and things like that. And I'm like, cool. And I always told myself, like, I love this so much being out there. I was like, and then I went hunting at a Utah ranch, and the guy that owned the Utah ranch, I was like, hey, how'd you get this? He was like, oh, it's my great great grandfather's passed it down to my grandfather passed it down to my dad passed it down to me. And I was like, I wonder how much it cost them to get it at the point. He was like, back in the 40s, it was probably a couple thousand, and this is like 20,000 acres in one of the best parts of Utah. I'm like, a couple thousand. I was like, how much is it worth now? He's like, oh, we've been getting offers 300 million. And I was like, and y'all didn't take it. They was like, no, we'll pass it down to our kids. I'm like, that's how generational wealth starts, I guess. That's
Mhm.
how it works. And I told myself, when I get my third contract, I'm going to buy me land. I'm going to buy dirt. God ain't making no more land.
That's right.
He's blessing us with a lot of babies, but there's not going to be another mountain just pops up out of nowhere and they're going to say, hey, no one's claimed this. He's not doing that anymore. So, uh, I bought it and I turned it into a ranch where my kids can go be kids and feel safe and learn about outdoors and learn how to just live life. And that's how it all started. That's how the love started for me. It was something that I just wanted to do differently and pass down to my kids.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
it's peaceful out there, right? It's a different type of peace than inner city wise, and I used to visit my uncle's land and all that. That's where I started riding horses and everything, and it's just super peaceful out there. Great for kids too,
for sure,
where you can let them loose and they can explore, run around, and play, and
and
you ain't
get
got to worry
dirty.
about the bike and someone running a stop sign or something like that. It's just you can let them live.
You guys, if
wow.
you're ever in San Antonio, you gotta let me know. Come on out.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
we
Matt,
got to make it out there.
I think we have to do a road trip here.
Hey, bring
Sports
bring the
Spectrum on the
wife,
road.
bring the wife, bring the kids. We can do a
Yeah,
whole thing out here. Like you guys can stay at the ranch. We have multiple rooms to stay at. It's fun, man. I have internet out there just in case you have to do some work and things like that. But at first it was no internet because it was like
yeah,
it was my space. Like get away from your phone. Don't
mhm,
be on
Yeah.
social media. Like no TV. I had TVs, but it was like we're only to watch movies. You're not watching the news. You're
mhm,
not watching everything. And then it was like when I'm out there, I get out there sometime for like 5, 6 days. It was like if somebody needs something, I have to get a hold of people. So I end up
yeah,
putting Starlink out there where I can get internet. But you still can go out there and get away from everything. Leave
yeah,
your phone out there and go explore walk around, drive around in the four wheelers or dirt bikes, and
Mm.
but bring the wife, bring the kids. Like you guys will enjoy it.
All right,
We
Matt,
can
we
play
gotta.
basketball. We can see what those skills are like too. I got a court
Yeah,
out
I
there.
want
yeah,
to see if
Like
yeah.
Matt
we can
Forte can
brush up
still
on
dunk.
it. Yeah.
I might be how you got beat. You know, that first time it's gonna be like me. Like, man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to train and come back.
100 to
I,
We
nothing,
all
right?
yeah,
we play out there, and
For
it's a group of guys. Sometimes we go out there, fellas, and we just have a good time. It's no one trying to make anybody
yeah,
look bad. It's just basically running up, loving each other, and having fun.
That's
yeah. I feel
cool.
you. I
That's
feel you on
awesome.
that.
Well,
I'm gonna
listen,
take you up on that for real.
For sure.
yeah, that sounds like a great idea. George, before we go, I just want to ask you, going back to your faith, you talk about just getting baptized. That's not that long ago. That's the summer. Um, what's the fruit that you've seen from that, even into the fall now, NBA season just getting ready to start, and you think about even just the past 3 or 4 months. And I heard you talk about we're in a church, I'm reading my Bible, like things were taking place. Can you kind of share just a little bit some of the fruit that's taken shape from the moment that you said, yeah, I'm all in here. Like this isn't going to be something else. It's going to be me and Christ. Obviously, and for people listening, you're wearing a shirt that has Jesus's name on it,
Oh
which is a
yeah.
good sign too. So talk about just some of the fruit or growth that you've seen in your journey, even just in these past few months.
I think my biggest it was July 2nd this year is when I got baptized, right in the middle of that pool. I was trying
Mm.
to figure out why they want to put me in the cold water because the hot tub was right there. And I was like, I don't want to do this in the hot tub. No, but I think one of the biggest things for me, and I think this is what, and it could be different for everybody else, right? But I think one of my biggest moments for me as a father came like when I was during the season and all that stuff, you would come home so drained, so tired, your body hurts. And I used to always remember like my son used to always ask me like, "Hey dad, can you before I go to sleep, can you come pray with me?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." And you're so like just busy and I'm after a game, either we lose and I'm so focused on the loss and I'm trying to watch film and try to figure out how I could have got better and I kind of forget and he just falls asleep and I walk in there and he's asleep already and I did it so many times. And I think my biggest thing now is like those were moments that I missed in my life, right? There was moments that I could have connected with my son to show him that that was what is the most important thing in life is to give him thanks before you go close your eyes. And I never understood it until July 2nd when I dipped in that water and I came out and now things are getting put into more perspective. Like he asked me that, I'm right there. I don't care if the eggs is burning on the stove. I'm going right to it. Uh, like the other day, my wife and my baby was in the room with my daughter, and my daughter wants to pray before bed. And my son's 1.5. He don't know anything, but my son, I took a video and I'll send it to the group message. I sent it to your message, and I took the video. It was a surreal moment because like my wife is holding my daughter and they're praying, and my little baby is there, and he's on his knees Like he's on his knees and he got his eyes closed, but it's a kid, so he's got his eyes closed. He's like looking, he got his eyes closed, and he's like
Yeah.
looking, and he's trying to figure out what's going on, right? And at the
Yeah.
end, he's like, "Amen, amen." I'm like, before all this happened, it was just like through the wind, through the door for me. And I think the fruit of my labor is those little moments where I can stop and appreciate it and say that like this is what it's all about. It's about teaching my kids who Christ was to get them early so they not making those same mistakes I did and so they understand like what it is to walk with Christ and who you should be and how you should treat others and how you should love others and um it was that and really getting other people. I think the fruits of it all is now we have a group of 150 people in like a group message that we have with athletes and other guys and having other guys here, all in a group and starting things like a band of brothers Bible study, basketball. We kind of use basketball as like the stepping stone to play open gym and afterwards we're praying and just talking about real life situations and going to lunch now and just tapping in with guys and loving on guys and praying for guys and I think the fruits of it came from that more than anything. It had nothing to do with like, oh, I got this job and I got this. Like none of that matters anymore. Like money doesn't matter anymore. The cars don't matter. It's the love that you're giving people. And one of my good friends was dealing with so much stuff, bipolar and alcoholism, and had a couple domestic violent cases and things like that. And um, I think after I came back and he seen how I was changing, it was like a wake up call for him. One day he just came to me. He came over the house and he was just crying. And I'm like, yo, you good? He was like, man, like, how can I get to where you are right now? And for me, it was eye opening because I'm like, I don't even think I'm where I need to be. I'm just now starting to walk with the Lord and I'm new to this. But it was what he's seen from what I've been through and how I've been changing from seeing like you guys in football to like when I came back, I was talking about it like all the time, like, oh, like went to this football thing and it was like mind blowing. Like I seen a Matt Forte and like I listened to his story and I'm like, dang, I'm just like him. Like his story sounds like my story. And like you're seeing all these people and I was talking about it and he was so interested in it. And it was crazy. He went just back overseas now to play basketball, but he gave his life to Christ
Uh,
in the middle of Lifetime Fitness.
Mm.
Like
wow.
it's it's mind blowing. Like he's literally like, man, I want to give my life to Christ, and we're looking like you. He's like, yeah. And the crazy part is, our pastor Ed was there. Our pastor was there. Let's go right here to this pool in Lifetime Fitness. He did it right in Lifetime Fitness, and it just to show his maturity and him like giving his life up and saying like this is what it's all about. Like I want to be committed to it was I think that's the fruits of it all, right? It's
So good.
bigger than getting $1 million job like
Mm.
that
Yeah,
has no value
yeah,
It has eternal ramifications is kind of what I look at.
for
Eternal
sure.
perspective, Matt, that just is amazing to hear. Thank you for sharing that,
yeah,
George.
yeah, yeah. The Lord will meet us where we are. Reminds me of the Ethiopian eunuch, where he's
Hmm.
like, "How do I know the scriptures unless someone explains them to me?" And then he says, "Is anything keeping me from being baptized?" And they literally stopped and went and baptized, and then and that's in the Book of Acts, and it was like the first. Also, one of the things that they talk about that solidifies that it's not the white man's religion. It's the
Yes.
Ethiopian eunuch who was baptized way in the Bible days and took it back to Ethiopia. So that's an amazing part of that. But thanks for sharing that too. And man, we've kept you longer than we were supposed to, but we love hearing you talk and share your testimony. Look into more and more, um, you know, stories of the NBA guys and the revival that's going on. So we appreciate your time, bro, for coming on Sports Spectrum, and looking forward to having you on more times in the future.
Hey, anytime I could have still been doing this for another hour. My son's in there with my wife. We're good. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I just thank
Well,
you guys for giving me the opportunity. I mean, there's 1,000 athletes out there. For you guys to pick me and choose me, it's an honor. Like I said, Matt, I looked up to you. I loved you. Jason, thank you for all you do.
yeah.
Like I told you at PAO, I was like, man, I would love to get with you and your wife and learn how you did it because hearing your story was basically the same as my story. So I
Yeah.
respect you. I love you. I can't wait to share more life with you guys, and can't wait to see you guys to football. I told them you guys not kicking me out of football because I started basketball. I'll be back to football. Don't try to boot me out now because basketball started. So it's an
Yeah.
honor, it's a pleasure, and anytime you guys need me here, I'm a phone call away.